So looking in Venice, we've got a decent amount of new listings. My hot sheet's usually about 2 or 3 pages long. We've got 6 pendings in Venice and no sales. So really what this is telling me, Northport is really hot. Englewood's doing great. Every area is really doing well. But we need more listings.
As far as sales, it's doing well,
Yep.
right? What do you think?
Pendings, there's a lot.
Why is everybody moving here all of a sudden, buying houses?
They're getting out of big metropolitan areas. They're getting out of big
And Laura, you have.
Because people want more freedom,
Yeah, question mark.
I think.
That's why I'm here.
To sum it up.
That's why I'm here.
Yep. Well, and better weather, better recreation. We can do more outside year round.
So Jen, just so that it answers it in my head, I'm pretty sure the answer is no. But there's no place on that in MLS that will ever tell you the contract price until after the property is closed, right? So it's not like you can go in and use that if somebody's trying to put together an offer on a very similar property. There's no way to do that.
That information is confidential to protect the seller, and it's subject to fluctuate during the closing too.
Right.
Due to specific negotiations that can change.
It's a secret.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we've got a lot of different resources for research just through our own MLS. This is all free with your subscription. Realist is a very good resource that I use a lot.
What do you get out of Realist?
I'll show you. I'm going to go back to, if you don't mind, I'll hold that question. I'm going to go back to doing the hot sheet while we were on that subject. We also have data co-op. To be honest with you, I haven't used this in a long time, the data co-op. But from what I recall, this allows us to access shared information in other MLS systems. Does anybody know about that a little bit more? So yeah, data co-op, that's something that I really should look into a little bit more, because that will give us information from out of our system.
Labels or.
I think so, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
I think even out of state too. Yeah, yeah, so there's a lot of good information just right here on your home page. So we're gonna go back to creating a hot sheet. Okay, so since this is Monday, instead of doing the 24-hour, I would probably change this to 3 days because last I checked it was on Friday. So you can customize it. If you're on vacation for a few days and you miss it and you want to come back, you can search it for, say you were gone for 3 weeks, you can search 21 days back. So,
If your name was Luz.
okay, so to create a new one, yeah, so you're gonna go to customize. Okay, so let's say I want to create a new residential hot sheet just for a specific neighborhood. If we want to talk about marketing certain areas, is that a good idea? You want to kind of go with that? Okay, so we're going to add a new hot sheet. And I'm just going to use my old neighborhood. I'm going to call this Morning Dove Farm. And then here you're going to edit the criteria.
That in this area here, or?
Yes, it's in Englewood. Yeah. So we're going to select single family homes. And I'm going to do a map-based search. If you have a specific subdivision, Boca Royale, you can enter that in your criteria. So I'm basically setting up an MLS search right now for the neighborhood that I want to monitor daily. Another way you can do that, instead of doing a hot sheet, is you can set up a property search with an auto email to yourself. So anytime something new gets listed or sells in that area, it will automatically send it to you. So that would be set up just as if you were setting it up for a new buyer. And I have several different searches set up like that for myself. So I'm just gonna draw a polygon here. We'll select these few streets. That's the area I used to live in. Now we have that whole section selected.
That's like window and shadow and.
Yeah. So here you're gonna enter what types of changes you wanna be notified about on your hot sheet. So we're gonna check for new listings, pretty much everything. I wanna see everything that's going on. And that should do it. So now when you get done, here's my morning dog farm checklist. So I'm gonna review, whoops, let me go back. Let's see what's happened in this farm in the past 7 days.
Not a,
Nothing. There isn't, it's a small area. So that's one way that you can really keep yourself on top of a specific area, however you want to search that. And again, you can set that up as a custom auto email to yourself too. Okay. So then moving on to Realist.
Before you start on that,
Yep.
Jen, is that also where you could go in and you could pull up just the Keller Williams properties? Can you set
On the
that
hot sheet?
on the hot sheet
Yes.
that you just made?
Yes,
You could just do it and then do it by Keller Williams?
you can. So you would enter listing office.
Okay.
Jackson stopped it.
Yep, so exactly. You can go on and see what everybody's doing too. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Well,
I mean, you may very well have several different hot sheets that you're checking on every single day.
Well, because if there's somebody that has just put something in and they're not somebody that comes into the office, but yet you're here every day, you might not.
Good point. Yeah. So this is Realist, and on Realist you can get quite a bit of information as well. So I'm just gonna type in my old home again. You can do a quick search here, you can do a detailed search if you want, if you know the parcel ID, you can enter that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can search here. I believe you can even search by subdivision. Yes, there's a lot of different ways that you can search here. Okay, so this is my old house. Let's say, you know, the owner's thinking about selling it. So I always pull up the Realist report because that report is such a good summary. That report combines information from the MLS as well as information from the county records. So you have those two sources on one report.
Really? Oh my goodness.
So we've got a lot of information that's on the county appraiser's website here. What's really great about it is you can also view the flood map. See what flood zone it's in. You go to print and do a quick print here. I always print an extra copy and give it to the property owner as well. So I'm leaving them with a little bit of information too. So this is what that PDF report will look like.
Isn't that the same information that automatically connects to the MLS right now when you do the
Yes, if you click on the link in there,
tax record?
it takes you to the county appraiser's website. Yeah. I like this report. You've got everything summarized here. You've got the zone that it's in, the flood zone code. You've got the taxable value, the lot description, characteristics of the home. There's a lot here. The only thing that this doesn't have that the county website has is the building sketch. So that's why I use those two resources. This gives an automated value market range, which is I don't know how the computers are calculating that, but it's still kind of a good baseline, I think, to start with, just so you have a quick idea. And then, of course, it shows the last sale date, how much it sold for. If there was a mortgage on file, you can see when it was recorded and when it was satisfied as well. Here you have the lot size, and then you've got a snapshot of the location and the neighborhood too. So that's why I like that report, because it shows the property dimensions as well.
But now that'll give you the information, but that's not what would also show you the liens, right?
It will show you if there's a mortgage.
It shows up.
It does show if there's a mortgage.
You're still in Realist there?
Yes. So heading over to the county appraiser's website, this is Sarasota County. And I'm just using my own properties for example, this is a rental that I have. So in Sarasota County, there's a little bit of information, actually each county's website has a little bit more information that you can't find on Realist, like the building sketch. So I always go to the map, and we're gonna print out a copy of the map so we can see what types of neighbors are around, what the neighborhood looks like. And then we're also gonna look at the building sketch.
MLA.
Main living area. This is a good building summary to print. With this, when I'm at the house, I'll kind of sketch out a floor plan. My drawing's terrible, but it still at least gives a basic idea of the layout. Because when you're walking through a property and you go to do a market analysis afterward, you might not remember what was where. So this is the GIS map for Sarasota County Property Appraiser. And this will show you where the property is. Bless you. And then you can get an idea on what's around there as well. So I always print that out as well. All of this information is going to help you to do your market analysis as thoroughly as possible.
That over cars? Right?
No, this is over by the laundromat toward Dearborn. Yeah, by Langsner.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love maps, I just like to kind of know where I'm at.
Yeah. And then, of course, you want to also view a copy of the most recent deed that was recorded. This is going to verify for you who the actual owners are, so that you can make sure that you're meeting with all of the owners.
That really.
Because a lot of times there will be a brother or a sister or who knows, a parent, and you're like, well, I really need everybody to, be here. So this will, and then of course, if the property is in a trust or in a estate, you want to alert them that they're going to need to get those documents together because they're going to need them when you close as well. So the deed is really important to pull up and print out as well. And all of that is on the bottom list. And I can email this out if anybody wants to request.
Yep, they've already requested it, yep.
Okay. Sure thing. Okay, so we've got the deed done, we've got the building sketch, we have an idea on what the neighborhood looks like, and now you also want to review the tax bill. This tax bill is good to review because number one, you want to make sure that they're up to date on their taxes and that it's not subject to a tax lien. The tax bill will also show you if there is a homestead exemption. That's always good to know because you're going to want to alert your future buyers if the taxes are going to change. So they just changed this website. It's not the same that it used to be.
Oh, planned maintenance today, 8 o'clock.
Okay, bills paid.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay.
Rebecca. So this goes on another board.
Oh.
I don't know if that's correct.
Oh.
Okay, so this has no exemptions. Here you can get an idea on what the property taxes are. So I always print this as part of my research as well. We've got the tax bill building sketch map.
On this map, would it also show the scrub J?
No, Scrub J for Sarasota County is a little bit more tricky to research.
Okay.
It's easy for Charlotte County because you can type in a parcel ID. Sarasota County and Northport has their own too.
Okay.
So there's multiple resources for that too. Yeah. But I think there may be a layer for Scrub J here. So if you click on this little stack of papers, this will show you all the different layers that you can research as well. I believe that Charlotte County has a Scrub J layer. Does it?
I just never encountered it, but I just wondered if that was going to tell you.
Yeah, Charlotte County page is kind of highly told, right, so.
Okay.
So in these layers, I'm actually more familiar with Charlotte County, but in these layers, you can also select elevation certificate and survey. There may be one available online that you can just download right away too. Yeah.
Where?
Let me do that.
This is still Realist that you're looking at there, right?
That was the GIS map from the county website. Yeah, I know, I'm kind of bouncing around here, I apologize.
Yeah, you're showing me screens I don't think I've ever seen before.
Okay, good, so you're learning something new.
Sure.
Jen, for this research, is it beneficial to buyers or sellers? I mean, yeah, buyers or listers? Well, who benefits from this information?
I think more the agent,
Agent, okay.
Yeah.
really. Because you can foresee a lot of potential problems right off the bat by knowing this stuff in advance before you even get to
We'll
the
take the sell
property.
in the long run for you to know,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, so it's very beneficial to the agent when you're listing
Right.
to be as knowledgeable. And a lot of times when you bring all this stuff to your listing appointment, the seller's like, wow, you know my house better than I do.
Mhm.
So that's good. That builds confidence right off the bat. On the other side, working for a buyer, if you're a single agent and you're representing that buyer, they're gonna be really confident that you know what you're talking about as well, because now you can download all this information. And what I do is I have a research package that I send to every buyer of mine. So within a few days, usually within the deposit period or the loan application period, we'll be sending this information to the buyer. And I always make sure it gets to them before the inspection period is over. And I have my little disclaimers that say, you know, this is not guaranteed to be all of the information that's available, but it's a really good summary of all of the different resources that are available to me. And they love getting that too. I also print it and give it to them in a folder when they close on the home. So now they've got a nice folder to look at in the future too. So yeah, I'm real big on researching. And it's really just to cover your butt too.
So if there had been a tax lien, it would have shown on that tax page that we looked at.
A tax lien for property taxes?
So property
Correct.
taxes, it would have shown on there.
Yeah,
But
they would
now,
have shown an amount due.
okay, but now for the mechanics liens, where does that show?
I'm gonna get to that. I'm just finishing up right here. So yes,
Okay,
that's
sorry.
no, thank you. That's coming up next. So yeah, within these county appraiser GIS maps, there are different layers. You know who's a good one to talk to about elevation certificates and how to find them? Is Kyle Arnold.
Yeah.
I need to get refreshed on that
Yeah.
because there is a layer that you can select on here. Oh, look, you see, you can even search to see the property owners in the area that have a homestead exemption. I didn't know that either. So now you can see who's living there and who is not. So that's cool. Okay, so I'm going down the list here under my property research resources. We just covered the first box. So now going to the MLS history. This is another important thing to research. for a potential listing and even for a buyer too.
That, they can't.
Because this, by searching the property's MLS history, you can now get an idea on if it was previously listed, if it has expired and been on the market 5 different times, and if the price keeps dropping. So there's a lot of information you can find by searching the history. And that is done by, I just use my quick search bar here. And then we'll pull up the listing. Okay, right here is matching properties history button. So this will show you the MLS history for this property. So you can see that it sold in December for $245. Price decrease by $5,000.
I've never used that button before, but there's a drop down at the bottom that does the same thing. Yeah, I just never did it that way.
Oh, okay.
Same interesting, see, I've heard people,
Yeah.
same thing.
And then here you can see that it sold in 2012. This is back when we had the active with contract deal,
Right.
which I wish we still had, but that's okay. So you can see that it was new, it went off the market, it went back on the market, it went pending, and you can get an idea on the history of that. And that's a good thing to research too, because if you're going on a listing appointment, you want to know if they previously had it with another realtor, you know, what their price was.
Right.
So-
And go to the bottom of that, of the listing, and where you can hit print. I don't know if you know this or not, it's kind of a recent update, but hit print. And then, see right there, where you can click listing, tax, photos, history, parcel map, flood zone, foreclosure. And it all out, give you one big report with all the information, you just went to all the different sites to look up. It's so
Okay.
cool. It's just a new update they did, and I kind of stumbled across it, but if you click it all,
That
and
is
then hit
cool.
print preview.
Okay, so
it'll
let's see
all
what
be
this
right there.
report looks like.
It's neat.
Thank you, Peggy. You want to come
It's
sit up
new.
here? You're doing
I'm so
great.
Well, I was showing those other things, I was like,
No, I
yeah, that's
really
in that,
appreciate
that's in that too.
I didn't even see that either because I'm so used to just doing my
And you didn't-
usual
that's
thing.
like when you showed me how you looked that other thing up, I've never used that button, but.
Okay, so
Let's
cool.
see.
So Peggy just showed us that you can click all of those other tabs.
And then you
If you go to print,
there you go.
this will give you the listing details, all of the tax record details. This is basically the Realist report.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Very
And
cool.
this is a really quick way to just print a lot of information for your client fast, you know, without having to.
There's so much to learn with it all together.
I just learned about it, I just want to share it, 'cause it's like, this is really cool, it has all the same information without having. to-
Really, and you've got, yep, and you've got the lot dimensions and everything right there.
Isn't that neat?
That is very
Does
good.
it give you the sketch of the house so that you can do a little, inside drawing or whatever?
No, well, not yet. No.
Okay, so that would be one thing that you would want to get from the other, because they're like, if you are
I like
getting
that.
ready to list a house that the people had built 25 years
This is in
ago,
a weird place.
and there's no prior MLS, then it would really help to have that other drawing so that you could draw in as you take your measurements
Right,
for doing that.
definitely.
Because, you know, that's a real pain.
Yep.
There's no prior MLS.
So what's cool is when I bought this house in 2012, Kathy Gamewood had it listed. And then when I sold it last year, her buyer's agent sold it.
That's
So
cool.
Kathy sold it, yeah.
That's neat.
So that was pretty awesome. We laughed about that. So, yeah, so that's the MLS history, and then there's also obviously a lot more information that you can get on that report too, so that's good to know. Okay, so we went over the Realist report, so now I'm down to the permits area. So I have a lot of bookmarks, and I definitely suggest when you're getting ready to start doing all this research, you have everything bookmarked so that you can quickly get there. You can just do a Google search for Sarasota County permit search. You can do the same thing for Charlotte County. So here, we're gonna see what's going on for permits. I do a lot of screenshots on my computer because if you try to print this whole page, it's gonna have this stuff on the left on there and it's not gonna print right.
Mhm.
So what I would do for my customer is I would just get my screen a little smaller. Wow, there's a lot of stuff on here. There's usually not that many permits.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of
We're
work.
taking our pages.
We've done a lot of work here. But you can do a quick, if you hit your print screen button, you can do a quick print screen. And then what I do is I paste that photo right into my paint program. And then you can crop it. So you would have just what is here, and then I print that.
Nice, so it's a lot more professional.
Yeah, so with that, now that you've got that summary printed next to you, now you can click on each specific permit and make some notes right on that sheet for your customer or for your listing. So this is when the sewer system was installed, for instance. So what I would do, see here it says plumbing,
Right,
I would write down sewer install,
okay, and then it shows it as being closed.
yes.
Oh, it doesn't show that that electrical's been closed.
That's from 2003. Issued, well, see, it just expired. It expires. So when they issue a permit, if you don't actually do anything with it, it eventually expires.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the re-roofing,
So
okay.
you want to make sure that there's no open permits.
Okay.
Everything here is closed. Okay, so we just actually had the AC system. So this says mechanical change out, that usually means an AC system replacement. But again, I would encourage you to even print this entire
Okay.
permit detail.
So
Because this is a
it's
really
not time.
big
Okay.
recent improvement.
Okay.
And buyers are gonna wanna see that. So I would actually print this as a PDF and attach it right in the MLS.
That's nice.
Yep.
You know, the buyer's agent sure appreciate finding stuff like that.
Oh, definitely, yes. You already have a best friend who's gonna help you negotiate, right? Yeah, exactly.
So when it says building without permit, is that like a shed?
I'm not sure.
It's just general, yeah.
Maybe we're doing something without a permit.
Probably a bonus room with an air conditioner that's not legal.
2 windows. in
No.
place.
Just saying.
This is my property.
Oh.
I've never seen it.
You won't tell anybody.
I know, I've never seen this. 2 windows replaced. We did get a permit for that, I swear to God.
Well, and I know from experience, sometimes this information is wrong.
So this, you know what happened with this? This is probably a neighbor
Mhm.
reporting it because the permit wasn't posted.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, you're
okay.
supposed to post the permit
Right,
just
in a little
outside.
permit box.
But it says building without permit, but it also says closed, so
Right,
that was addressed and.
it was addressed and taken
So,
care of.
'cause,
But yeah, we just.
But
didn't
I
know.
was never notified that that had been reported or anything. I never, first time I see that. So yeah, you can
Did you
see
live there
here,
then in 2016?
what's that?
Did you live there then in 2016?
This has been a rental that we bought,
Oh.
I think right around here, yeah, right around 15 or 16.
Well, there for you.
Oh, yeah, there it says complaint and then building without permit.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what it was.
So yeah, so here you can get a summary of all of your permits and then of course details as well. And if you sometimes as well, maybe somebody might have just had their roof replaced last year and they're telling you about it, and then you can look at this and say, oh, well, there's no permit on record, let's get that recorded
Yeah,
because that's gonna help you,
right.
right? Get a higher price and
Sure.
it's gonna help the buyer when they go to get their insurance policy, everything, you know, we wanna
Is
get
that
that
easy
stuff
to
on
do
record.
after the fact to get it recorded?
Well, hopefully they would have had a permit that was opened.
Well, if they had it done by a licensed contractor, they would have had to, right? I mean, a licensed roofer has to draw a permit, don't they? Not necessarily, sorry.
They can still do the work without a permit,
Okay.
but if they get caught, they're gonna get fined and everything.
Right.
Yeah, so yes, they really are required to.
Okay, that's what I would say.
Sometimes they don't always, especially with manufactured homes. Now with manufactured homes, and especially these older homes that you find in the area that don't have a crawl space
Mhm.
in the roof,
Mhm.
they can't do a wind mitigation report.
Right, because they can't get in there.
There's no way to verify what's going on in that, so those types of homes or manufactured homes don't require a permit from what I understand. Because it's mobile. Even though it's not.
Sure, if you take off the 8 outbuildings that have been attached.
Okay, so now looking for code enforcement and violations. So usually right about where you're searching for the permits is where you can also search to see if there's any code enforcement violations.
And right there, it says open code violation.
Those types of violations could be maybe for debris in the yard, excess debris, high grass, things like that.
Old junk cars.
Junk, yeah, exactly, unregistered vehicles, yeah.
Don't call my car a junk car.
Yeah, they don't label it that, I can't remember the wording. Something to that effect.
Charlotte County is easier. Search cases and records right here for code compliance. Does anybody know of a property offhand that's vacant? Maybe that's been vacant for a long time?
Yeah.
Kind of run down?
Yeah.
You got an address I can type in? Is it Charlotte County though?
Yeah, Charlotte County.
Okay, great. And a lot of these things are things that the title company is gonna come up with during their lien search as well. This just gives you a head start.
11920 Booth Avenue, 33981.
Okay, so we've got an expired AC permit, and then here we have a code enforcement violation for high grass. Tall grass well over 12 inches. This was in August of 2019, and it was closed. So nothing really to be alerted there. I wouldn't even bother printing that for my records. It's just that now I know that everything's closed.
So when it says expired AC permit, if it expired, did they not take care of it before it expired?
They probably never had it done.
Okay,
They probably pulled the permit
right,
and maybe just never replaced the
Okay.
AC. So they would have to open up a new permit.
okay.
You ever heard of a ghost permit?
No. What's that?
I ran across this with somebody that had a dock and a lift. And, at first it appeared there'd been no permit pulled, and I wasn't seeing anything on here. And then I called the county and they searched and said, oh, this is a ghost permit. I'm like, what is a ghost permit? You know, and apparently it was maybe opened up and not like finished or something.
They didn't want to tell you the definition.
No, not really. I didn't really know much of anything
Because
about it.
I learned of something called a suspended permit when I was researching a home for a buyer that had all this work done. And I was trying to find out if it was permitted, and it was all kinds of work, like additions and electrical and everything said suspended. What does that mean? And they said that during Charlie, there were so many permits and they didn't have time to close them all. So they're not guaranteeing the safety of the home, but they're not pursuing it to be closed. So then it's just
So it's kind of on hold?
What's that?
Kind of on hold?
Permanently, like you
Wow.
can't close it.
Oh,
It's just suspended.
Kind
Yeah,
of
the only way to close it would be to tear it to the wall and have them check into the electrical to see if it was installed right. And it doesn't make sense really to do that at this point.
sure.
But she said there were a lot of them out there, and I only ran into it the once, but if it was during that time period, it makes sense that it could have happened, you know.
And how does that affect the insurance if you're representing the buyer, like, do they get?
My buyer backed away after that because there's so much work, so I'm curious to that myself, yeah.
Probably the right thing to do, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some people might be comfortable, but he doesn't.
So here I'm opening up the Charlotte County Clerk of Court website. There's a lot of information you can find on here as well if you want to try to research maybe a deed that's not showing up on the county appraiser's website. Here you can search for mortgages, releases of mortgages, tax lien certificates. This clerk of court search isn't really that necessary anymore like it used to be, because now the county appraiser's website and Realist is so improved that it has all that on there.
Yes, I never used that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different searches here you can make. You're basically searching public records. You can search for tax deed certificates on properties. They have auction information.
You ever done that, Jen?
With a tax deed auction? Yes, I have. I used to work for an investor.
I was gonna say, investor watch yourself.
I used to work for an investor that purchased like 500 to 1,000 of those a month. And made a lot of money.
More than just this county then, right?
This was back in the early 2000s.
Right.
Yeah.
But we've used in other counties as well, right? There's not that many in this county, is there?
Yeah, other counties.
Yeah.
There are thousands
Other
here.
counties.
But back then, everything was just starting to get online. This is in like 2000, 2001. Everything was just starting to come available online, but they used to bring me these, you remember the old printer paper that was just a whole long
The
sheet?
green and white.
Yes, with the holes, with the holes
Yeah.
on the side. So I would get a huge stack of that and I would have to enter all those parcel IDs. And it was just a data entry job
Was he
basically.
making a lot of money,
I think
as
so.
far as you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Your
Seems
check
like
didn't
it.
bounce.
It seemed like it.
Yeah, but he was.
I had a nice office, I know that, so this was even better. So the clerk of court website is another resource for you if you want to research documents that have been recorded. You can even get information on divorce decrees, marriage licenses. There's a lot of different stuff on there that you can research.
There's a little chapel in the courthouse building.
Is there?
You ever
Yeah,
seen that?
I haven't been there a long
Yeah.
time.
One is in, Twin Road, I think.
That was the interactive structure map, just so you know.
Yeah, so now I'm moving on to try to do a search to see if a property is within a scrub J zone, a designated scrub J habitat. You can still build in a scrub J habitat. It just requires an environmental study done by the county,
Mhm.
which costs, I think, about $1,000 to $1,500.
I think it's even less than that.
It might be.
It's been a while since I checked.
Yeah.
Then there's a season also that you can't.
Right. Right, and you can, once they approve that and they have verified that the birds have elsewhere to relocate to, then they'll issue a clearing permit, but you cannot clear from March through June, I think.
That sounds
Is that mating season?
good. Mhm.
So the website is currently down, but if you do a search for Charlotte County Scrub J map,
Mhm.
Sarasota County Scrub J map is a little bit harder to research. We have everything saved in our office as far as searching Northport. Northport's a little difficult to research Scrub J zone.
Northport's like a list, right?
It's-
I remember doing that one.
It's not that easy. You have a
It was
huge,
just like a list of.
yeah, you have a
areas.
huge map and you basically have to search, you have to know where the property is and then
Right.
really zoom in on that area
Yeah.
to try to see if there's a Scrub J zone. Most of Northport does not have.
No, there's not a lot there, yeah.
Okay, so now on the last part, we're looking for water and sewer service. So it's always good to know ahead of time, is there a septic system and a well? Or is there public water and a septic? Or is it public water and public sewer? So with that, I just went here to Northport Utilities. Charlotte County Utilities, you can research. Englewood Water District is pretty much a phone call because they don't really have a good website. And then heading down into Placida, there are some private utility companies as well. Didn't we just do one? Oh, no, ours
A
was,
long time ago, we did.
Sandalhaven.
Yeah.
that's right.
What's it?
Sandalhaven, Gasparillo Pines area, that is Utilities Incorporated. So here I'm on the Northport Utilities website. And then there was a link that I clicked on. I'll go back a little bit. Right here, city water and sewer availability. Okay, so here you can just type in an address. So this is helpful, especially in Northport, because they start and stop service everywhere. So you may have a house that's on a well and a septic, but 3 houses down, they're hooked up to public water.
Or next door.
Or next door. Yeah, exactly. So it's really good to understand what the neighboring properties look like on that street as well, because now you can market it to somebody and say, hey, there's potential for you and the other abutters to extend this service, you know, instead of, if say the septic system needs to be replaced.
Right.
Or, yeah, say the septic needs to be replaced, but sewer is just 100 feet down the road.
Right.
I would say go ahead and pay the money to have that brought in instead
Probably
of
costs us to do
replacing it.
that and then sell them septic.
Yeah.
And bring more value.
Yeah, so this will also show you for insurance purposes, and I'm sure they research this too, if there's a fire hydrant, water and sewer availability. So these properties on Biscayne have public water. These do not.
So Jen, you know, Charlotte County came out with that new regulation that you have to show that your sewer has been inspected within the 5-year period, and they're just sort of
For
checking
certain
everything
types of systems,
for septic,
not all septic.
not all
systems.
septic, okay?
From what aerobatic,
Yeah.
aerobic,
I've heard it pronounced both ways, I say aerobic, but
One with the light on it,
Yeah.
it comes on,
Yeah.
blows an alarm. I
yeah,
guess, something.
specific septic systems.
Oh, okay.
There's a problem.
Because like, my mother-in-law got one for hers, and we got one for ours, and I guess it's just where your address happens to fall in the time frame.
Right.
But I wonder if there's any place that they have that you can check that. So if somebody doesn't know if,
Yes. So if
the
you want to,
septic
if
is
your property does have a septic system, well, I mean, the whole goal with all of this is to get this information before you have to ask the owner.
right,
Right.
right,
I just saw the county. and they-
So, the environmental department, the county's environmental department would answer that for you.
okay.
Hopefully, they will pick up their phone or get back to you within a reasonable amount of time. Yeah.
They actually answered, but I didn't tell them what it was about until I got.
So, yeah, you want to go to the environmental department for that county to verify that. So yeah, there's several different ways that you can search for water and sewer availability. So that's Northport. And then going on to Charlotte County Utilities. Now, as an agent, the website's not working. But we all have the availability to get copies of everybody's water and sewer bill from Charlotte County Utilities. The utilities will require you to register to obtain a 4-digit PIN number. So when you go to search for an account, you enter your PIN number and then you'll be able to print off that bill. So if somebody needs help, maybe getting their average bills, you can print that off for them. That's part of my research package. I always have that with me as well.
Does it show the average or just the latest bill?
It will just show the latest bill.
I was just curious if I
Yeah.
was somewhere on there.
Yeah, but you can get past statements, I think, too. And with that, just if the property is in Charlotte County, it's really easy to find out if it has water, sewer, or septic, because it says it right on the bill.
Right.
You'll have a water charge, or a sewer, or a sewer charge, or both, or no bill at all.
Right.
The tax bill?
The
Tax bill?
utility bill from Charlotte County Utilities,
Okay.
that will indicate if it's on septic and water, or both. I sell a lot of vacant land, so I also am in the habit of printing out that specific county's water and sewer service map. And those are available on their websites as well. So if you have a vacant land, let's say even in South Gulf Cove, is there water and sewer all throughout there, right?
Yeah, but the sewer's a mini septic instead of regular sewer, but it's built like regular sewer, you don't pay anything for it, but they do have little mini septic systems that pump it into the regular sewer.
Okay, yeah. But I mean, there are certain neighborhoods where maybe they are hooking up to sewer and it stops on a certain street. You know, by referring to that map, looking at where your property is, again, you can tell where their local water and sewer lines are. So that's another good resource too. So that really, and that's a lot of research just for one property.
It is.
We have a lot of information available to us.
When you're working as a buyer's agent, when do you start doing all this? After an offer or prior, or?
After a contract.
So you don't spend the time to do it to compare properties, you just
Well,
go
yeah,
with what you can see from the MLS, and
Yes.
then once you're pending, dig in during the inspection period.
right, so yeah, I'm gonna back up a little bit, yes, so if we're having a tough time kind of determining what the value is, I might
Right.
do a quick market analysis and do some basic
Right.
research of that.
Yeah.
That would be the Realist report, the MLS history,
Mhm.
a map of the area, the GIS map.
Mm.
And then the deed.
Yeah.
You need the deed anyways to write up an offer, so. Yeah, so if you're doing a market analysis, you wanna have that information. I definitely don't print all of that for every showing,
Yeah.
that would just be too much.
Yeah.
So during my showings, part of my consultation, first step is to designate a couple properties. Once you narrow a few properties down, then the further detailed research will begin.
Maybe your number one and your number two properties.
Exactly, and then I have a full list of research that I'll provide for you.
Yeah.
But definitely for a buyer, you always wanna try to, especially if you're a single agent, because now you're representing them.
Mhm.
So you need to really be as thorough as possible as well. So you wanna at least get that information to them, hopefully a few days before their inspection period ends.
Mhm.
Just in case there's something alarming that comes up and you never know. Because I always unfortunately learn the hard way, and I've had that happen to me before. After the inspection period, there were permits that were still open, and it was not easy to get them closed, and the buyer did not want the property anymore.
Yeah.
But they were paying cash,
Right.
and we had already passed the inspection period, so they couldn't back out.
Yeah.
And the seller offered to take care of it, but the buyer just didn't want to wait. I think we ended up extending that one by like 90 days or something like that. So,
Well, it worked out at least, but
Yep.
yeah, you can see where that could have gone the wrong way.
yep, so yeah, and then last thing you ever want to hear is, why didn't you tell me that?
Right.
You know, they're relying on us to be the professional, and I mean, a lot of things we can kind of pass on to the inspector and say your inspector is gonna cover all of that, but, you know, this is a lot of
And when you do
information.
your due diligence to give all this information, if something does come up, they know that you
Yeah,
did your due diligence.
Exactly. and I've got a copy of the email I sent them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, so yeah, it benefits everybody.
Right.
Any questions so far? How are you doing on time?
It's 1:52 now. We're done at 2. I don't have any questions in the chat box yet.
Okay.
How can, I have a question, how can, when there isn't a permit for something that was done, how do you resolve the sale? I mean,
It depends, I guess,
I
what it
used to be really
is.
scared of that, but then
You talk
it's
less-
like, I made sure everybody knew on both sides, and they're like, okay, and
I
then
am-
they went through it, it's like, all right.
I'm probably not the right expert to go over that,
Yeah,
because, well, like, let's say a finished carport,
Mhm.
that's very common,
right.
right?
Or a garage that's been converted to a
A
bedroom.
conversion, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what mine
So we've
is.
got a converted garage that was done, who knows how long ago.
Right.
Property's been owned by 5, 6 different people since then.
Hi, Henry.
What I was told was.
It's not really an issue if they,
It can be with the lender, is what I was told, as far as
It can,
conversion.
yes.
They can ask for that room to be returned to the original state, like a garage. It's a real lot, but
Or
they
they-
need to be back into a garage according to what the county. It didn't happen to me, but
You can
I was
pull a
told it did
permit,
happen.
you can open up a permit for that and have it inspected and closed out. I know that for sure.
But within a timeline, you know.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. So they would, the problem is, say the work was done 20 years ago, while the electrical codes were different back then.
Right.
So if you pull a permit now and open up that permit,
Might not pass, yeah.
right, now it's not up to code, and now you've got a permit that can't be closed.
Right.
So you can open up a big can of worms by
That's-
doing that.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened, like, both my buyer and my seller were aware, the agents were aware, everybody was okay with it, but you're still kind of scared, like, is this gonna, or rent it somewhere, who does it affect, you know, those are my questions.
I had a property where the owners paved an area like the size of this room and made this amazing outdoor kitchen recreation room.
Oh,
It was beautiful.
Mhm.
It wasn't permitted.
Hmm.
They had run plumbing and electrical under the pavers.
Mm.
Because it had a sink,
right?
and this had one of those big curved pizza stoves.
Mhm.
It was,
Wow.
but the buyer was concerned about that.
Mhm.
So there is a guy, a local guy, I don't know if he's still
Oh,
around, Peppy.
Yeah, yeah.
Peppy, that is his job. He
Yeah.
will go to open up a new permit and get the property up to date to the current codes and get the permit closed.
Right.
And it's pretty costly. It's not cheap.
Yeah, because like you said, like, you gotta pull up the papers to even get
Yeah.
to it. Yeah.
So he determined on this particular addition that they did,
Mhm.
the roof material that they used was not acceptable to current roof standards.
Mhm.
Oh,
It was just a cheap, I don't even know what it was made of, kind of like fiberglass
Mhm.
material.
Mhm.
Well, they would have needed to tear that off and install a specific type of roof in order to get that permit closed.
Mhm.
And they would have also had to rip up certain sections of the pavers
Mhm.
to show the type of conduit and everything that the electrical was enclosed in. So he knows all that stuff.
I got a couple questions
Okay.
on here. Marlene, first to go off the last question. So do you just let it go if done a long time ago with no permit?
I don't want to say yes to that, Marlene.
We are not lawyers.
I can't say yes to that. I mean, I'm just a very laid back person, so my opinion is usually a lot less strict than other people's.
Right.
It's really gonna depend upon your
I
buyer.
think the big thing, just let them know and let them decide, you know?
Exactly.
Because I have a
It's
buyer
really
now
gonna
that's
depend on
like,
that, on
I
what
hate
it
that
is.
trying to make sure you get permit for everything, I'm not gonna get a permit for it, so why do I demand they have, you know, okay, that's your attitude, then you'll be
If
fine.
your buyer's the type of person that says, well,
But it
that
can affect the resale, I just make a point of saying that, you know, because you don't know whether it'll matter to someone else. you know?
if the buyer says, is this gonna affect my ability to insure the property?
Right.
And the
That's
answer is
That's the
no.
important question, right?
The buyer may not care as long as they can get it insured
Right.
and that it is safe and that, is there a problem with the inspection?
Mhm.
No? Okay, then I'm good. They may not care at all.
Right.
So it's gonna be a case by case basis, unfortunately. Sorry.
Linda Malik has, a neighborhood has white flags that say Sarasota County proposed excavation. How do you find out what that is?
Well, Sarasota County.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a county flag and you would call excavation, the highway? No, not the highway department. Environmental? Excavation.
Just call the general county and ask.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
department?
Yeah, I would call that county and inquire about it.
Yeah.
Make sure you know the street name, obviously, because they're gonna need that, but usually when you call about something like that, they've already been receiving calls as
Right,
well.
they know what department handles it at least, you
Yes,
know.
yeah, contact the county.
And then what about mechanical liens from Marlene? It just says mechanical liens, I don't know.
So mechanical lien sounds to me like that would be for work that was not paid. So you had an AC system installed and you had a payment arrangement with them. And then now you just drop off the face of the earth or move or whatever. They can put a lien on that house for that unpaid balance. And that becomes due before you close. So the mechanic's lien will have to be taken care of before the property can transfer to a new buyer.
Where do you see them?
Mechanic's lien would be under that may be the clerk of court website. I would probably check for the clerk of court website on that. And then another good avenue would be to double check with the title company as well.
I guess the title company has to
Yes.
search for it.
Yes, so that will be found through the title company.
Right.
I just don't like to rely on the title company for everything. I just
Yeah.
very hands-on. So
Right.
you can search the clerk of court website for that, as well as the permit section. And you could always give your favorite title company person a call and say, hey, can you check real quick and see if there's any mechanics liens on this property?
Mhm.
Any other questions?
I'm out.
Thank you very much, Jen.
Yes.
This is great information.
Do you have any ahas?
I do have something that I didn't get to. I'm not gonna continue on right now. We can always extend this if we want to schedule something else. I didn't get to the last two parts of the top. So I was gonna go over researching property owners by neighborhood and creating a mailing list through Realist. There you can also create labels if you want to do a specific mailing. I'm happy to cover that at another time. And then also we can go over how to research neighborhood activity based on the number of homes in that neighborhood and then determining the active to sold listing ratios. So for instance, if there's 80 homes in a neighborhood and in the past 5 years, only 5 of them have sold, that's not going to be a very good source of future business. So there are a lot of different ways that we can research to find that information out too. So I'm happy to do that another time.
There's also something that remind. I don't know if you type into that much, but watch some videos on that, because that's exactly what it does. It gives you the likelihood of people being willing to sell,
Oh, 'cause
whether they have mortgages, how much they owe, whether.
They're coming up in that
It
70.
has a lot, I have not taken enough time like I should, but it is, if that's something that you wanted to do, target an area for listings, it's a great resource. And there are videos available for the last to show you.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy, because it's been a while since I took our basic courses at the board.
Yeah.
And
I took
when
a course
you-
when it first came out, and they still didn't know enough about it, but boy, it sounded like it had some really good
Yeah.
information.
And when you don't do that every few years, you're missing out on new
All the
opportunities.
updates and stuff, yeah.
So that's a good idea. I personally will want to check with the board and find out when
I
they're
wish I
gonna
could
have their next class. that
Say
goes
more
over
about
all
it, but
this.
I definitely think that's worth anybody checking into, because it really has some good information.
Yeah,
I think Bird took a class with you at first.
thank you guys for coming.
Don says, thank you so much, Jen. This helps so much.
Thank
And
you.
Marlene says, remind is good.
Okay, I will check that out too.
Thanks for coming, guys. It's nice seeing everybody coming into the Market Center.
The Inglewood Chamber of
So-
Commerce?
Question for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, so, a house that they converted a garage to a bedroom, and I haven't
Has a
been
membership?
that
And I guess you could
so I
use
don't
it
know.
because of that, yeah, that's true. But you
Yeah.
can't use like the
Did they just
individual
like
benefits,
toss it down on the floor and
classes,
sheetrock and, that's all that they've really done?
yeah, they actually,
Is there-
believe it or not, I took a really good class there about Google.
If they
that taught me
didn't
how to
do-
my Google,